now we get on to runes and magic, and I think this is one of the really kind of misunderstood areas, and it can be misused a lot. And I'm not talking about just people going out and casting runes and casting spells, but I'm talking about accidental misuse. So runes can be used magically, right? Some of you might be using runes magically. I don't know. Some of you may or may not. Some of you may never have touched runes. Some of you might be just, tinkering with runes or curious about runes. But they're not used just for magic. So they're used for divination. They can be used for healing. And that's something I want to get onto in a minute. Not necessarily in this talk, but just as a by comment. So in magic, the whole point of magic is, I'm not talking about white, grey, and black magic now. I'm not talking about the distinctions. That's too much to go into tonight. I'm talking about magic in general. So magic is a way to change, bend, or shape both the outer world and or the inner dimensions. And this is why when we chant, we're jiggling those inner dimensions, and we're basically affecting change in ourselves, which then comes out into the outer world. Like Gandhi said, be the change that you want to see in the world. So we might combine runes to make a bind, and then we might sing it, which is Galda or Galdra. So, for instance, here we go. We've got a rune bind. So we can see that there's algaes, which is that rune, which is effectively the person with his hands out or her hands out. We can see that on the left stick, on the right stick, sorry, on the bottom. We've got we've got Thurasas, which looks like a P, but with an extended tail above it. And joining both of those, we've got an Urus, okay, which is like the slanty N. And the Galdra for that would be, and you can put them in any order you want, so you just make something that the tongue can fit around. You would say, Uralthurs, Uralthurs, or you might say, Thurual, Thurual, or Aluthur. It doesn't really matter because you're combining the chant of all three. You can have more in a rune bind if you want. And that might be protection. You go back to the stock meanings, for instance, and you can see that those runes you can kind of extrapolate the fact that you've got a protective quality in that. So you might have good fortune though. And when I was putting this together, I was struck by how much that symbol looks like the PlayStation symbol, right? For those of you who've never seen it or not into gaming, I'm not into gaming, but I know what it looks like. I used to work in computing for years, and it looks like the PlayStation symbol. Have a look at it, check it out. And you can see there we've got Fehu, because that you can see an F in there. That's Fehu. We've got Yera, which is the two angles, like the greater than and less than sign. And joining that, we've got Wunyo. Looks like the Thuras above, but it hasn't got the extra tail on above. So it's the letter P. And the P has been drawn over one of the sticks of the F. And we might say, Fejerwun, Fejerwun, Fejerwun. And lastly, we might have a victory on the victory on the battlefield. I mean, we might want to have Tiwaz, because Tiwaz governs, he's a god of war. So we want to invoke Tiwaz. We want to invoke Tyr. It's Tiwaz in different places around the globe. But Tiwaz, Urus, and Soilo. So we might have Soiter, 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 or Ursotir, or Ursotir. It's really up to you. But this is where the problem comes. Because to effect change in the inner and outer dimensions, we make the bind and sing the Galda. But if we don't quite know what we're doing, we might make a bind like this. So We clearly set out with the intention that we want to put a gibo in there, which is the cross X. So we want some kind of good fortune. We might want manas, which is two P's, looks like two wunyos, two P's back to back with the points of the P's touching. You can see that we've got that in there. And we might want a wunyo in there for some reason. And we might want to sing Wunmanji. Wunmanji. Sounds Chinese, but it's not Chinese. Wunmanji. Okay, or any derivative of that. But the problem is that we have to be really careful with making rune binds, because what we've done with making that rune bind is we've incorporated an ewaz, both an upside down and a proper way up. We've incorporated, and I'm looking at the white runes now, we've incorporated two wunyos back to back. Wunyo back to back. Now, that's okay because we did say that we wanted wunyo in the bind, but actually that wunyo is cancelling itself out because you've got one the right way and one reverse. We've got thurasas upside down, two thurasas upside down. We've got, and what I've done is I've put this two binds by the side because it was easier than putting two lots of white over the top. So hopefully you can see that. We've got one per throw and one per throw reversed. We've got four lagu, two up right and two down. We've got one kenaz and one reverse. And also the kenaz, if you look at it, they're intersecting. So that's going to do something weird to our bind. We've got a kenaz upside down and the right way up there. 90 degrees turned. We've got an ingwaz. I mean, anybody can look at that and see the diamond in there. So we've got an ingwaz. But notice there's no ingwaz because we don't have an ingwaz reversed. Nowhere on that have we got another ingwaz. So we've got a bacano. We've got an uthala. Well, two there. We've got four rados. We've got two manas. We've got two solowo. And we've got two gibo. Right? So, magically, every rune acts in this bind. In this bind is not gibo manas wunyo, it's actually ingwaz and gibo. Those are the only two shapes that are not challenged in any kind of way. And so therefore, if we try and sing Wumanji, because all these forces are acting and cancelling out on the bind, it's not going to activate the bind properly. A better way of doing that would have been something like this. So this is the original bind on the right, on the left. And what I've tried to do is I've tried to pull out and limit the amount of things that are acting on it. So you can see, for instance, in the middle column, the first thing I did at the top was I moved I want wunyo, manas, and the gibo. So I've got the manas, which is the two P's with their points touching. I've got the gibo, which is the X, and I've moved the point of the wunyo, which is the little P, onto one of the sticks of the X. However, in that shape, I've introduced the Anglo-Saxon hagalaz. Well, now this, can't remember, but I've introduced that. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll move it down to the end. That'll be all right. But in that, I've now incorporated tiwaz, and actually tiwaz reversed. So the one on the right now, that was the one on the bottom. So the one on the right now, what I've done is I've moved it up and out to an angle. And so now there's no hidden runes in the bind. So when I sing now, when I sing Wu Man Ji with that rune bind, it activates it. It activates only those 3 binds, unless I've completely missed something. I might have missed something, but I don't think I have. So rune binds are a really powerful thing, and they're not just shapes. This is why when you walk down a street, advertisers have worked out if they put their logos anywhere in the corner of your eyes, they'll act upon you, and they're always made up of shapes. Like if I say the Golden Arches, you're all thinking now McDonald's. You know, it's the power of a symbol. But Jung knew all about that. So now we've touched a little bit on magic. Now we've touched a little bit on historical. Now we've touched a bit upon mythic. I want to come to this thing called the Dispilio tablet, which has kind of hit social media and everything over the last few months, I think, few weeks, definitely a few weeks for me. And remember I said about writing and runes and writing systems, and we think that writing came up into the Germanic tribes via the south. So then we have to buy into the academic timeline of how writing rose, and that instantly puts us into Mesopotamia. That puts us into social systems, first cultures, everything puts us into that timeline. Well, what they've discovered is that these carvings on the tablet reveal something ancient. The thing is, we don't know at the moment what they are because there's no Rosetta Stone at all. This is effectively the Rosetta Stone, but it's a Rosetta Stone with nothing else on it. And it's pre-linguistic, or this is what they're thinking, it's pre-linguistic. If these symbols, this is a chunk of wood found in Italy, if these predate language, are they the dream echoes of deeper knowing? Now, the reason why I say that is because, you know, right, these symbols don't just occur at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning and somebody picks up a chisel and goes, right, Fred, I'm going to carve on a piece of wood. This has a lineage way back before it's carved. So if this tablet, as some scholars believe, show an early formation of writing system, then the Dispillo tablet shows Neolithic people were using some form of writing. And if this is the case, it may prove that the Neolithic people were literate. And I'm sorry about the equals at the end there. It was my typing. So it shows that the Neolithic people were not only literate, but they were thinking in structured language and writing forms. And so, importantly, if the runes existed in the Neolithic, and we can say they're runes because they're shapes, intelligible writing systems, they had developed over countless ages, showing that the ancient ancestors predating the Neolithic may have also been literate. And that's huge because all of our knowledge about where writing comes from is that you have to have a settled culture who then have some kind of need for writing. Same as art. You have to have some kind of settled way of being before you can, you know, and you're fed effectively and you can enjoy food before you can start picking up a brush, experimenting with paint and slapping it on walls. But if this means that, I mean, just think about the ramifications for this. This means that we could be looking at Stone Age people going, right, how do we write this down? What do we do it? And of course, a lot of those things have been lost to us now. You know, we won't find writing. It's a miracle that we found this somewhere, but it's pushed back now, writing thousands of years. And that's really exciting. And therefore, we're seeing the formation of runes. So this is what those markings look like. Some of the tablet has been lost to damage when it came out of the ground. So there could have been other runes and other forms. And I'm calling these runes because if you think about it, they are effectively runes. I mean, we were using the Elder Futhark as a writing system, magical writing system, but from my perspective. And then the younger Futhark we were using for communication. So, we've definitely got the precursor to Tiwaz there. If we look on the left-hand side, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth one down. That's effectively an arrow. Okay, it's on its side. Tiwaz is upright, but we've got a Tiwaz there. If we look in the second from right column and we go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we've got an upturned Fehu, or what could emerge into a Fehu. Above that, we've got Kenaz. So, and don't forget, this is bringing in, the northern traits of people. No, okay, it's Italy, but maybe it came from somewhere else. And we can't say that it originated in Italy either. Proof that it's there does not mean it originated from there. It could have been taken by somebody. But I can't say any more than that because I don't know. So at present, we don't understand these symbols or their sounds. But to go back to a previous slide, early Germanic sacred symbols present in Northern European rock carvings would have also been influential in the development of script in the runes. So we can see now there's another part to this coming in. There's this pre-Neolithic system that I think was germinating and bubbling, coming into the system. Tribes would have had their magical systems. The runes come up from the south. The scripts come up from the south. Everything kind of gets bubbled in the great Udrir, and the runes come tumbling out of it. But it's exciting. What's happening with runes and thought around this is really exciting. So are we seeing a mystical symbol that would form runes here? So I don't know. It's just so. And the reason why it's got A, B, and C, by the way, is the paper that I got this off. It has got a much bigger breakdown of the columns A, B, and C, or the groupings of A, B, and C. So if you want to go and look at that, just type in the Dispelio thing. It's all a tablet. It's all over media, and it's a hot topic at the moment. So you'll find something with these with those references. So what we're going to do though is, because we can, as shamanic practitioners, or even in meditation, we can go and we can communicate with the carver of this, one of our ancestors somewhere in our bones, or one of our ancestors knew the carver. But don't forget, we're only a very small tribe at this point. And you've been drawn to this talk for a reason. Somewhere in your bone memory is a fragment of DNA that maybe you were there. Not talking about reincarnation point. You were there observing, looking, or carving, or you were in the tribe that carved it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and look at this beautiful ancestor of ours. And we're going to try to get some kind of clarity. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you just to keep looking at the ancestor. And I'd like you just to take some deep breaths in. And out of the corners of your eye, on the periphery, you'll see some symbols. Don't look at the symbols. I want you just to keep on looking at the ancestor. And as you breathe in and out, let her speak to you. This is the carver of those runes, and much more that were lost. As you look into her eyes, one of the symbols comes into focus. Don't look at it. Comes into focus. You're drawn more to it than others. But let her speak to you. Let her impart that knowledge from thousands of years ago. Just keep on looking into her eyes and ask her either the name of it in her language or the sound of it, maybe the color of it. Maybe there was a color. Just keep on. Give it another couple of minutes. And if a rune has come, I'm calling it a rune, a symbol. If a rune has come into your periphery and really kind of just pulling you to one side, it could either be the left or the right. Just look now at that symbol and just connect with it. And then come back to her. She holds such deep wisdom. These are the precursors of the tribes of the north. She wants to speak to you. She wants to impart a language, a sounds. And even though you are separated by tongues, in the bone house, in the bone memory, there is no separation. You take a couple of deep breaths in now and out. And just hold on to the sound or the name of the symbol. And just remember the symbol that you've taken. Okay. And just come back to this time now from the ancestor and thank her. Thank her for, hail to the ancestors. Hail to her, the unknown one who resides in us all. So, last slide for tonight. So it's fine to have these, it's fine to have these little runes hanging around and, we go and integrate with them and use them. And then we have to go to Morrison's or Tesco or, the Quickie Mart or whatever in whatever country you're in. And we have to do that. We have to live life. And sometimes we forget. So how can these symbols help us in modernity? We seem to be this lost race now. Many of us, me included, now I grew up lost in many ways. And, didn't really find who I was until later in life. And then everything kind of clicked. I realized I'd been moving around places and being in places and things like that had an obvious Norse connection. I spent so much time in York. I'd moved around. I'd done things everywhere that I seemed to end up. It was like a Grail quest, but only a rune quest, And so for me, I know that, I'm very attracted to that, to not only the Norse. It's in my blood, it's in my bone memory, but the place where I've been and I've ended up and I've landed, I've been very clearly Norse orientated. So as a practitioner, though, of runes and Seidra, I ask myself constantly, how can 24 strange little symbols, these ancient things, support us in modernity? Well, I think, and this is only me, my opinion, I personally think that the runes point us in this postmodern era where everything goes and anything goes. Do as you like, ditch everything and take everything up, strip everything out of one tradition and merge it with another. Don't worry about following a tradition. You'll find your path. Everything's all right. Do as you wish. It points us to a troth, Old English for truth or Old Norse for truth. And that resides in our bone memory. And that troth is the troth that every tradition held. And this troth is the same from the shaman of South America to those of ancient Russia and far Russia, from the north to the south, the east to the west. And there's many variations on this, but when we look at the when we look at what we do in life, we're not dissimilar from each other. We wear different clothes, we have different experiences, but we all went through birth, we all live our life, and we'll all die. And this troth is what it means to be human. It's the pathway of initiation. God, I've suffered some initiations, some really deep initiations in my life, as I know all of you have. And I'm no different from any of you. My initiations have been different, and they've been traumatic, and they've been heartbreaking, but not as heartbreaking and traumatic as some. And they've been worse than others. And in this was the start to the end of everything. This pathway, this troth, lay out steps, if we follow it, if we immerse ourselves in it, into a tradition, even going into the Christian tradition. It has initiation, it has life, it has birth, death, afterlife. But these runes, if we let them work on us, it shows us an ancient roadway. Some people express this as a going inwards, as a spiral. Some people show it as a labyrinth. It doesn't really matter how we show it, but it's the ancient roadway ready to be trod. And everyone knew this. Everybody, all primordial law, everybody up to the age of enlightenment, which was needed, by the way, because we were going around burning everybody and condemning them and just stealing and plundering their land and dressing it up in religion. But at the heart of it was a religion that held you. And the primordial law of all sacred traditions hold you as a human being. They're different masks, but they're fundamental for our health, our well-being, and our humanness. And so therefore, if we don't have any kind of tradition, if we just embed ourselves in the postmodern tradition and we just throw everything away, we don't have the roadmaps, and we end up being a lost race, a lost people.